My name is Rachel Pettis, and I'm a member of the product marketing team here at Vanilla. And it's my pleasure to speak with Kevin Donovan, founder and partner at The Art of Planning. Before starting The Art of Planning, you were over at LPL working with advisors every single day, almost. What should every financial advisor focus on for the 2026 sunset from your perspective?
I think there's two parts. The first one is the timing, and the second part is the tactics. So let's talk about the timing. A lot of these different strategies are going to take some time to set up. They take time to cure, and there's certain steps that need to be followed in order to comply with the IRS regulations. So the timing is really important. You know, you think about it. This is the first week of Q2, so we've got 3 quarters left until the TCJA expires, and we want to make sure that we have enough time. The tactics, I think, is really important. And I'll give you an example. Right now, I'm working on a case where I've got a client in their 80s, married couple. They have an estate tax problem in 2 years, but they don't have one today. So, you know, you think about it in the $20 to $26 million range. And so what we're looking at and comparing the basis of is slats. Now, their financial advisor is a huge fan of them, and I keep having a lot of financial advisors coming up with the slats. And I think it is one of those things that when you hear about it, I take my money and I separate it out. And so I've got my money and my wife has her money, and then we give it to each other in a trust. And as long as we're spouses, then we can have lifetime access to that. That's an option, but I think making sure that you understand how that can forecast out. We need to look at family limited partnerships as well. And I think that this is one of those great things. I think of family limited partnerships kind of like a rushing nesting doll, where you can take a bunch of assets and you can put them into it. So, for example, I've got some guitar picks here. And so you think about that as, you know, you own a company, you own some real estate, you own all of these things. They may be valued at, let's say, $20 million. But if I take it and put it into a family limited partnership, and I split the ownership on that, and all of a sudden we've got 2 owners. We've got me, and let's say I own 1% of this, but that 1% I own has 100% of the voting rights. And then I give 99% of it away, and I put it into my trust for benefit of my kids. And this portion that owns the 99%, let's say that it has some conditions on it. One, the trust can't sell this to anybody but me. And 2, I have 100% of the voting rights and the trust has 0. So while they can disagree with whatever I do, they don't really have any say on it. And so what we can talk about with the family limited partnership is this gives a little bit more control for the person that has the voting right. It allows for us to use discounting, because when the IRS says you had $20 million, but you aren't letting them vote and they can only sell it to you, we have a lack of control and a lack of marketability discount. And that discount could discount the assets from, let's say, 10 to 55%. If we go with a 40% number and we put 20 million in there, a 40% discount on 20 million is $8 million. So all of a sudden we had $20 million when it was on its own, but when we put it into this family limited partnership, it's now for IRS purposes worth $12 million. And then we can put that into our irrevocable trust and not have any estate taxes because we took advantage of the discounting. So we want to look at that as an option, but that takes time. We've got to appraise the business. You've got to set these up. You know, the spousal lifetime access trust, that's really popular. My story with that, Rachel, is have you ever gone to a Mexican restaurant not knowing that it was a really bad Mexican restaurant until you ate?
Unfortunately, yes.
And so sometimes slats are like that. It's like you go to this Mexican restaurant, you order the fajitas, the sizzle's going, everybody's looking, and you go and you're really excited because you wanted the fajitas and you take a bite and it's a lot of fat and gristle. Now, I'm not saying slats are always fat and gristle because I do think they have the appropriate time, but you do need to weigh it out. You know, somebody that's in their 80s that are looking at, effectively giving away assets to take advantage of it. If their income needs are really limited, that they don't need income from both of those, that becomes a little bit more viable of an option. But if they're in their 50s and you think about giving away those assets, what happens if they were to get a divorce and all of a sudden that spousal lifetime access, there's no lifetime access because there's no spouse. And so I don't want to say it's a great product or a great tool or a bad tool, but it, again, is one of those tools that you need to analyze. But again, going to the timing of it, you need to educate the client on each of these. You need to give them the gimmies and the gotchas so that they don't end up 25 years down the road stuck with a problem that solved the problem they had today, but it created a bigger problem later on down the road, the steak mongoose problem, if you will.
That's fantastic. I can really tell, at the Art of Planning, you really inject a lot of storytelling into how you work with clients and how you engage with clients. And we think it's incredibly important for financial advisors to be able to do that as well, to make things digestible and tangible for their clients. And can you speak to that aspect of, what you do and how financial advisors can infuse that into how they're working with clients?
Sure. So I started as a financial advisor, and every time I met with somebody, I knew that I didn't have another, it was, going to play baseball. It's like, this is the one at bat that I have to do. And so I took it every time to find a way to connect with the clients. And as I connected with them, I wanted to find a way to actually communicate with them in a way that they could walk away and feel like they understood it, because that was what I was hearing from people. They didn't understand. All these financial advisors talking alpha or beta, the attorneys are talking about grantors and settlors, and none of this makes any sense. And the clients are just sitting there saying, hey, Kevin, can you explain it? And that's really where I came up with the idea of explaining a trust as a briefcase. And the whole idea is that you take this, and if I tell you to think about a trust, you're just going to think of a pile of paperwork. It's a very intangible. So how do we make that into something tangible? And I use props. And, since COVID, we really have to figure out how to be in this box and get all of our image out there. We don't have the whiteboard. We don't have the ability to sit eye to eye with them. But this still works. And what I'll do is I'll say, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a trust. And we're going to put directions in how this trust is going to be operated. And while you're alive, one of the things I want you to understand is that it's a revocable trust. And what that means is that you can open it up, put things in, take them out at any time you want. But when you pass away, it's going to get a lock on it. And this is going to get handed over to somebody that you trust, who's going to be entrusted with this, called the trustee. And they are the ones that have to follow those instructions in it. So they have the ability to look in there, and they're going to look and say, hey, when do the beneficiaries get money? And so then we start talking about that. Okay, when do you want this to actually be able to have money for the kids? My favorite story is just setting it up, because a lot of clients don't understand that if they died today and didn't do anything, their kids are going to get all the money on their 18th birthday. Generally not a good idea. I know what I was like 18. My best friend inherited $50,000 and bought a Corvette. 2 weeks after graduation, he wrapped it around a telephone pole. Didn't go to college, still was at home. And so it's just one of those parts that I became really passionate about, that so that when the kids get it, they're getting it in their time frame based on what the parents think is best for them.
Fantastic. And I love that example you just gave and the props that you use. It's very tangible, very easy to understand. Thinking about that, though, I also know that you're a large advocate for tech solutions and engaging with clients, especially in this slightly more virtual world we live in. So what are some of the tools that you use right now, or that trust and estate attorneys could be using to better engage with clients?
A lot of attorneys are still doing PowerPoint presentations to try to show flowcharts. I really like what Just Vanilla does, because you put it in there, it's intuitive, and it comes out in a very user-friendly format. My clients love seeing it. They continue like, hey, when am I going to get an update on that chart as we're doing different things? I was really excited that you guys put the scenarios in. That was one of the things that I talked about with you all about a year and a half ago. It would be great if I didn't have to recreate another plan of data entry, and being able to show. And that's what I'm doing with a particular client right now is, does the SLAP make sense? Does the family limited partnership make sense? And we could do the numerical side of it, but, using the technology to be able to forecast that out. I still use Brent Mark to do a lot of the IRS calculations and on that side, but Just Vanilla has really become kind of a one-stop shop beyond that for the planning and explaining aspect of it when I need something that's in the writing with the numbers to support it.
You're thinking more about, your time at LPL, working with financial advisors, and earlier in your career when you were a financial advisor. How can financial advisors and attorneys work better together, from your perspective, and kind of what you're saying now that with your practice?
You kind of have to treat it like you're dating. The way that I think of that is that if I'm a financial advisor, I want to reach out and meet all the estate planning attorneys and CPAs, but I need to make sure that they're the right fit. They're the right fit for me, and they're the right fit for my clients. At the end of the day, there's certain clients that you mesh well with and certain clients that you don't. So you want to make sure that it's somebody that when you put them in front of your client, that it's going to be a reflection that's at least equal to, if not better than, the reflection that you give within your practice. And so that in of itself is probably one of the ways that I've developed more relationships with attorneys, CPAs, mortgage brokers, and just social butterflies in general that became very fruitful for the practice.
Got it. That makes a ton of sense. I think, what I'm hearing is like finding those synergies and just making sure at the end of the day that everyone meshes well, for the sake of the client in that relationship. So I think that's all that I had for you today, Kevin. I want to thank you again for taking the time and providing us this such fantastic and, really important insights on the upcoming sunset and how financial advisors and attorneys can be better prepared and help their clients as well. So thanks again.
Thanks, Rachel. Great to talk to you.